Welcome to Rambam in Depth. Today we'll be discussing the Rambam Hilchos Trumah Perik Dalet Halacha Zayin. The Rambam says the following: Hifrish Trumah b'machshavtei. If someone separated Trumah in his thoughts, and he did not utter a single word, no verbal expression, Hareza Trumah, it's still considered Trumah. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, V'nechshav lachem trumastem. The word v'nechshav teaches us b'machshava bilvad tia truma. Mere thought alone is enough to make it truma. Question here is, what does the Rambam mean when he says hifrish truma? He separated truma. That sounds like he has to be mafresh. He has to separate it through an action. And perhaps the Rambam means that he separated with his action. He took part of the tevuah physically, but instead of designating it verbally, this is truma, he thinks these words, this is truma. But what happens if he would just do thought alone? He would just think the words hareza truma. That would not be a valid way of making something truma. That's one possibility of learning pshat in the Rambam, and that's how some Mefarshim learn that that's what the Rambam means. However, other Mefarshim say, no, on the contrary. Look at the end. The Rambam says, Machshava bilvad tia truma. Mere thought alone is enough for making it truma. That sounds like that's all you need is mere thought. So the Mefarshim go back and forth trying to verify what is the Rambam Shita. Perhaps one could say that if you look in the Gemara where it talks about you take truma b'machshava, Rashi uses an expression, nice and einov b'tzad zeh, that he puts his eyes in one side and he eats from the other side, which sounds like machshava alone is enough. That's all he has to do. He just has to put his eyes on the side that he wants to designate as truma, and he can eat the other part. That's machshava alone. Now that expression, nice and einov b'tzad zeh b'tzad acher, in Gemara itself is only mentioned in two places. One with regard to meduma, mixtures of truma and chulin, and one with regard to demai, doubtless truma. But in every other place, the Gemara uses the word machshava. But Rashi interprets machshava to mean nice and eina b'tzad zeh. What does that mean, nice and eina b'tzad zeh? So Rashi in Nida, explains those words as follows. He says like this: nice and eina b'tzad zeh, lahafrish mimeno la'achazman. That means that he puts his eyes on one side with the intention that he's going to be mafresh truma from this side, la'achazman. So he's not saying these words, harei zu truma, this is truma. He's not focusing on one section and saying this is truma. He's putting his eyes on a place that he's going to be separating. Why would that be a valid way of separating? So it could be that Rashi goes l'shitase in Yavamas, that the prohibition of Tevel, untithed produce, is because it has truma in it. So essentially, the truma is already there. So what are you separating? You're separating that where the truma is already there should be segregated and sectioned off into one place. So since you're focusing on the truma, on the tevuah, and you're saying this is where I'm going to take truma, you already separated it. That's good enough. But perhaps the Rambam doesn't learn pshat in machshava. Separating truma machshava, according to the Rambam, doesn't mean nice and eina b'tzad zeh. Doesn't use that expression. The Gemara doesn't use it every place, only in two places where it might be different than normal truma, for reasons that we won't go into right now. So the Rambam is saying essentially that hifrish truma b'machshava, which means not that it was mafresh with physically separating it and then just thinking and not saying, but in thought itself, there were two ways of looking at it. One way is nice and eina b'tzad zeh. He's focusing, this is going to be the place where I am going to be mafresh truma, which according to Rashi would be enough. The Rambam says, no, it has to be hifrish truma. He has to actually be machshava. He has to actually have in mind, while he's thinking about the truma, he has to have in mind that I am now designating this section as truma. That's why he uses the word hifrish. But it doesn't need any physical separation, and it doesn't need any verbal separation. That would be the shita of the Rambam. There's a whole vikuach between the Rebbe and his father about this. The Rebbe's father maintains, he brings from the Shar HaMelech, he brings from other Mefarshim, that Hifrish means he did physically separate, but the Rebbe learns, like the other Mefarshim, that it means not physical separation, it means that he separates it b'machshava, just machshava alone, not with any dibur. And this hinges on another debate between the Rebbe and his father. According to Reb Leivik, the Rebbe's father, when you separate Trumah b'machshava, machshava alone, it doesn't make the Trumah holy. It just takes away from the Isra of Tevel. And the Rebbe learns that does make it Trumah holy, but that's another subject for another time.